Hi guys, this is lesson 4 in unit 9. We're going to talk about writing function to represent tables of values. Let's take a look at our first example. We have a table of values with x and y values, and we're trying to write a function to represent this table of value. Looking at this table, we'll find out that this table can be represented by a quadratic function, just because of the fact that I see values that can be presented by a parabola with a vertex here in the middle. So let's find out if this is true or not. We will use the calculator to help us find the best function that can represent the table of values that we have. And to be able to do that, we have to enter the values in the tables in the calculator for the calculator to find the best function. And to enter these values in the calculators, we need to hit the stats button. And then we choose the first option, so we need to hit enter. In the table we have two columns. That means I need to put my x values in L1, my y values in L2. So in L1 I'm going to put -3 and hit enter. And then I'm going to put -2, -1, 0, and 1. And these are all the x values that I have in the table. I'm going to go to L2. I'm going to start putting the y values in L2. And in L2, I'm going to put 6, then 3, then I'm going to put 2, then 3, and 6 after that. And now I put in all the values in the table. We'll ask the calculator to calculate the function that we need, but before we do that, we need to make sure that our diagnostic button is on in the calculator, because the diagnostic button gives us the R value, which is called the correlation coefficient, that measures how accurate the function is to represent this table. So to make sure that the diagnostic button is on, I'm going to hit the second key and then 0 to go to the catalog. The catalog is listed alphabetically. So I'm going to go to diagnostic, that's a D, so I'm going to go to alpha. X inverse to get to the words with the D letter. And then after that, I'm going to have to choose diagnostic on. So I'm going to hit the alpha inverse to get to D, and then I'm going to go to diagnostic on. You'll see two words, diagnostic on and diagnostic off. We're going to use diagnostic on to get the correlation coefficient number that can help us determine if the function is good enough to represent the table of values. So this is diagnostic on. I'm going to hit enter. Now when you hit enter once, you'll see the word diagnostic on in the calculator, but it's not going to be actually on unless you hit the enter key again and see the word done. So now, to get the equation, we'll go to the stats button again. This time, instead of edit, we're going to go to calculate because we're trying to find the best function. Number 4, always represent linear regression or linear function. Number 5, represent the quadratic regression or function. And then for the exponential function, you're going to have to go to 0. 0 represent an exponential regression or function. So now, I know, looking at the table, that the best function that can represent this table should be a quadratic function, but I want to show you how we can use the correlation coefficient value to determine that. So I'm going to go to linear regression, which is number 4, to find out if linear regression or linear equation is the best equation to represent this function. The x list is L1, the y list is L2. That's all true. All I need to do is to hit enter to calculate. And then the calculator is going to give me the function that the calculator thinks is the linear function that can represent this table, which is y equals 0 times x plus 4, and the r value, or the correlation coefficient value in this case, is 0. And when the correlation coefficient value is 0, that means that this regression or this function is the least function that can represent this table. And the value of r is supposed to be between a -1 being a -1 and 1, 1 and -1 being the perfect function to represent a table, and 0 being the least function to represent the table. Now let's go to stats again, but this time let's do an exponential function, and the exponential function here is option of 0 after I hit calculate. And then the calculator is going to give me the function, the exponential function that the calculator thinks is going to represent the table, in this case with the correlation coefficient value. And looking at the calculator says that the function is A, which is 3.650186051, times B, which is 1 to the x. The correlation coefficient again is 0. That means exponential regression again is not a good regression or function to represent the table. Now let's let's this time choose the quadratic function. So I'm going to choose number 5 this time and hit enter. And this time the calculator says that the quadratic function that can represent this table is 1x squared plus 2x plus 3, r being 1, and we said the value of 1. And the value of the correlation coefficient is always between a -1 and 1. 1 and -1 represent a perfect representation, while 0 is the least function to represent the table. And in this case, the quadratic function is indeed the best function to represent the table of values with 1x squared plus 2x plus 3.